Should the Niners copy the Eagles in two phases? Would you like to see them with the rugby scrum quarterback sneaks, maybe using Trey Lance, even if Trey Lance gets beat out by Brock Purdy, and also going for it often on fourth down, like basically going for it from your own 40-yard line to the other team's goal line all the time on fourth and less than 5. I mean, that seems like what the Eagles' plan is, and their rugby scrum quarterback sneak probably picks up about 3 yards on average. Heck, I could almost see some team copying it and just running it and going no huddle. If you get a defense on the field and they can't substitute, you get, you just,
3 yards.
I mean, it would be ugly as hell to watch. But do you think the Niners will copy it, or do you think the league will ban it? Because there's also been a lot of talk about the league will come in and try to do something to ban that play because it's not all that fun to watch, and I could see teams using it in mass.
Yeah, I mean, if teams start using it no huddle and defenses can't stop it, that would become a huge problem, right? If it's just 4 yards at a time down the whole field.
Boring as hell with a bunch of guys just pushing.
Exactly. It'd be like a bug in a video game or a loophole, that I don't think the NFL would like. So I don't know. I don't know what the competition committee is going to decide. They're going to sit down at the owners' meetings in Arizona this offseason. Those at the end of March. And I'm sure that they'll discuss stuff like that. But as far as emulating the Eagles, you mentioned the QB sneak, and you also mentioned what else? There was one more thing.
Going for it on fourth down.
Okay, yeah. That's Kyle Shanahan's biggest weakness. He doesn't have a good grasp of the analytics. Yeah, everybody's talking about all this. Oh, he's blocking defensive ends with tight ends and play action. The Chiefs are blocking Reddick with a tight end all game. The whole league is doing that kind of stuff. A lot of people want to complain about Shanahan doing stuff that other really good coaches are doing, like Andy Reid. The one thing where I think the 49ers are a bit behind is there's no rhyme or reason to his fourth down decision making. He'll be really aggressive at times, and then he'll be way too conservative at others. And they put out these charts showing, fourth down aggressiveness. And most coaches have like certain tendencies. Kyle Shanahan's dot on some of these graphs they put up there based on his decisions is like way away from everybody else's. And the analytics guys just say that Shanahan seems confused. Shanahan doesn't know what to do. And, as situations change. And the Eagles have a philosophy. They're going to go by the numbers, and the numbers do recommend to go for it a whole lot more often than the typical NFL coach does go for it. And I think it really paid off for the Eagles this season. I mean, one of the biggest plays of the NFC Championship game was the 4th and 1 that Philadelphia ran quarterback sneak from their own territory, right? And that ended up turning into a long touchdown drive that gave the Eagles the lead at the end of the first half. You imagine if they punt there, which I think Kyle Shanahan would have punted there, that game could go in a very, very different direction, even with Josh Johnson at quarterback. Because the key for the NFC Championship game, I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, though, is the 49ers, if they could have kept that game as this ugly tractor pull for as long as possible, even with Josh Johnson in there, their chance of winning would have grown. Where they lost control of it was that 4th down at the end of the second quarter, then the Eagles, taking advantage of a couple penalties, scoring, and then Josh Johnson fumbling. So anyway, the Eagles' 4th down decision ended up really sealing the 49ers' fate in that title game. And I think the Eagles rode those good 4th down decisions all year. And I don't think the 49ers have benefited nearly enough from some 4th down aggressiveness. I think Shanahan can absolutely copy that template and be better.
Yeah, I would say Shanahan's alternate conservative and, kind of a go for it mode mentalities make no sense. Game 1 or game 2 of the playoffs against Dallas, or even game 1 and 2 against Seattle and Dallas, he was incredibly conservative with his use of Brock Purdy at times in those games. And then you get into the second quarter in the NFC Championship game and you're only down a touchdown, but suddenly you're hell bent with Josh Johnson to travel the length of the field or go for a score. And he got super aggressive with his 4th string quarterback while he was relatively conservative with Purdy, who might have been his best quarterback. So, I mean, it's just, there was a lot of inconsistency there. I think Shanahan needs to sit down almost with himself and his coaching staff and his offensive staff and just say, let's map out our game situation philosophies and then let's hang with it, and we'll adjust off of it if we want, but let's not go into the game just totally like with feel. Your feel's not that good. There's been countless examples of his feel not being ideal. The
One
Niners
more.
free. Go ahead.
He tries to have his cake and eat it too on those end of half drives. We saw it in Super Bowl 54.
Right.
We saw it against Dallas, where he tries to run the clock, and then he tries to put so much pressure on his QB to make the big play to get them into scoring range. So he's trying to run the clock and then simultaneously also get the points. And to me, that puts the quarterbacks in a really unfair situation. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo had a really good throw to Kittle, but it was the OPI in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, right? But what Shanahan did was forced everything into that one play. Nothing could go wrong in that play or the 49ers don't score, right? Against Kansas City. Same thing against Dallas, right? They start running the clock, and then all of a sudden it's 3rd and long. I think it was like, what was it, 3rd and 12, maybe even more. And
right.
Purdy bails him out with the throw to Jennings on the crosser.
Right.
And they end up
and then all of a
scoring.
sudden the philosophy changed.
Yeah, and then the philosophy changed. And after Shannon was like, "Yeah, that's exactly how I planned it." It's like, well, yeah, it wouldn't have worked though unless your quarterback made an unbelievable play on 3rd and long, which is really low percentage. And you saw in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, your quarterback made an unbelievable play on 3rd and long or whatever it was, the Kittle, but the OPI, you're at the mercy of the refs. One thing goes wrong, and your whole strategy was on thin ice.
Your margin for error there is just very, very small.